Hello everyone and welcome into our KREM 2 streaming center for this exclusive KREM 2 Plus Weather Impact live stream. I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick. It is February 3rd and we are alerting you to the threat of snowfall for tomorrow, being that Tuesday, and there is quite the potential for some heavier snowfall across mainly our southeastern areas, as you're going to see. Now, in general, a lot of us will pick up at least some light snow, probably about an inch of snow here in the Spokane area, but the real key of our forecast is where does it start to pick up between just about 1 inch of Spokane to where do we start to see 3, 4, or even more snowfall, especially to the south and southeast. So that's why we are giving you this heads up on KREM 2 Plus. So stick with me for the next 10 minutes here or so because we have a lot to cover. First of all, today we are still seeing a few very lighter snow showers, but we could certainly get some bursts of heavy snow at times. So here's Doppler radar. I'm focused in over Whitman County at the moment. Southeastern Washington getting some light snowfall, especially between Pomeroy and Colfax. Maybe even Pullman got a bit of light snow during these early morning hours. But as we transition back a little bit farther north towards Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, you can actually see there's one little snow shower that's around Hayden, and it's starting to push northward from there. This is super minor stuff. It might be enough to lay down just a little dusting of snow on the ground. It might even be grapple, because some of you probably even noticed there is some grapple, like those little snow pellets on the ground this morning. That more from last night, but we could still add a little more snow for today. But today is not really the main event. Instead, it's going to be tomorrow when we combine a lot more moisture from a storm system to our south, combined with Arctic air that's getting pulled in from the north. So we have these two storm systems. The first of all that I want to point out is this stationary boundary that you see through northern California and extending through Idaho and then into Montana. That's supplying the moisture. In fact, you can already see plenty of snow over the southwestern corner of Oregon. That would be towards the Medford area. Meanwhile, the low pressure that's over Vancouver Isle, that is actually swinging quite a bit of colder air from the Arctic, and that is what has actually produced quite a bit of snowfall for Seattle. So if you have any friends that are out on the west side, a lot of them were actually complaining about the snow from last night and again for this morning. So that's how cold the air is that is getting pulled in into Washington State. It's not every day that Seattle gets snowfall. So it takes actually quite a bit of colder air to rush in from that region to actually give them some snowfall. So that's the little radar returns that you see on the west side. We don't get a whole lot of that today. Instead, we see kind of both of these storm systems merged together, and that is what's going to create quite an impressive snowfall event throughout the Northwest as a whole. So we start with our winter storm alerts, just got a regional wide view. The purple and the pink areas, these are winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings respectively. And I've just laid out with the arrows kind of how this storm system is going to progress from far North California and southern Oregon through central Idaho and then into Montana. But you're probably noticing that that's avoiding the inland Northwest, at least partly. It's just going to skirt right by to our south, and that's why our southern and our eastern areas are in line for more snow than, say, our northern or our western areas. In fact, this is missing the Cascades completely. So Snoqualmie and Stevens Pass, they're not really going to get any snow out of this. They're quite far away from the storm system in total. We're going to zoom on into the inland Northwest. In fact, I'm actually covering up the one and only area that is under the winter weather advisory here locally. That would be Grangeville, Kamei, and Orofino. Winter weather advisories for Tuesday into early Wednesday morning. The heaviest snow is definitely going to be over central Idaho. At the moment, the rest of the inland Northwest is not under any type of winter weather alert, though that might change. I'm going to keep an eye on areas like Pullman, Lewiston, Moscow, and probably Shoshone County in Idaho. Those would be the areas I would expect to be added to the winter weather advisory. Coeur d'Alene, Spokane, maybe not. It's going to be a close call here either way, but that is, again, where our advisories currently lie. Now to our snowfall totals. This is probably what you've been waiting to see here. Our forecast snowfall for the day tomorrow should result in only about 1 inch of snow in Spokane, 1 to 3 out of Coeur d'Alene, and it starts getting heavier in our southernmost areas. I have 2 to 4 for the Lewiston area. I'm covering it up again, but Grangeville and Orofino at 3 to 6. There's the contouring. It took a while for it to actually add up. What I really wanted to point out, ignoring the numbers altogether, you can see the darker blue shades to the south and southeast. Yeah, they're just going to get more snow than areas to the north and northwest. It is as simple as that. But where the precise details lie is at what moment do those colors really start to add up? Because that line could certainly sway or shift. And if it does by even 10, 20, 30 miles, you're talking about a difference of 3 or 4 inches of snow. So it's the gradient that makes this a very tricky forecast. But quite obviously, if you live in our southern areas, you're going to get more snow than if you live in our northern areas. So again, about 1 inch of snow in Spokane, 1 to 3 in Coeur d'Alene, 2 to 4 for the Palouse region. So we have our weather impact alert day because of this threat of snowfall. The heaviest is going to be at night, though some people might get a near all-day snowfall. It actually could start as early as 1 a.m., but the heaviest will hold off until almost at night. Of course, I mentioned southern and eastern areas are going to get the worst of the snowfall, or the heaviest, or just outright the most snowfall overall. And of course, that will result in some slow travel conditions. So you want to account for that, especially for an evening commute. Even if there is just 1 or 2 inches of snow, can certainly affect things quite greatly. Now we take you to our computer modeling to help us visualize how this is going to pan out. We start at 1 a.m. Tuesday morning. Very light snow showers just kind of drifting from south to north across the area. So even the morning commute could have a very light dusting of snow for most areas. But it looks pretty scattered and unorganized at the moment. And that does continue through 5 a.m. and the rest of the morning commute. But now we'll press forward until about 4, 5, 6 p.m. And actually I stopped the time frame at 8 p.m. And now that band of snow, instead of being scattered, is more tightly packed, and it's going to be more widespread, especially for our southern, southeastern areas. But the question is, how far north does that band go? This, you see the line just kind of barely cutting into Spokane County. Could that happen? Absolutely. Could it actually just stay farther south? Just as likely. So the evening snow for Spokane, it's a coin flip. It either will snow or it won't snow in the evening for Spokane. But for areas like Lewiston and farther south, it definitely will snow. And that's what makes the biggest difference overall, is who gets this batch of snow Tuesday evening. Just to illustrate the pattern here, I'm going to show you 3 different computer models, all at the exact same time frame. This is 8 p.m. Tuesday night. And you see our in-house computer model, which is called the graph. There's also the North American model, the NAM, and then the European model on the right side. All 3 of these look quite different, don't they? I do think the graph is kind of the middle of the road here, where it has Whitman County and Pullman included in that snowfall, where the Euro is actually a little bit more aggressive with snowfall. The NAM barely has any snow at all. So just from my own analysis, I would think the NAM is probably the furthest away of what's going to happen, and either the graph or the Euro is probably a little bit closer to what will happen. In case you're wondering what the GFS model says, the GF is all blown up in snow. It almost overdoes it. So the NAM underdoes it too much, and the GFS actually overdoes it too much. The graph and the Euro are kind of like our middle ground computer model. So that's why those 2 on the left and the right side that you see here are probably the most likely solutions, but they're as equally likely as each other. And that's why this is a very tricky forecast for Spokane, because it could be snowing and it could be not snowing at 8 p.m. All at the same time. So it makes this very, very complicated. But hopefully that helps to illustrate that there's always a chance. And in this case, it can go either way. Now, the morning hours, we will likely get some light scattered snow showers most everywhere, and that does include Spokane. So expect at least a dusting, or about 1 inch of snow in total. But the heavier snow is going to be in the evening hours, and as I mentioned, in our southeastern quadrant. Now we're going to just talk a little bit about temperatures here, because this also matters for our forecast. Tomorrow is actually going to be one of our coldest days weather-wise that we've had this winter. High temperatures in the mid-20s overall, low temperatures down into the teens, both in the morning and then the next morning as well. Probably 12, 13 degrees will be about our low temperature for Wednesday morning when this event is all said and done. That helps to set this up as at least an all-snow event. This is why we are not forecasting any rain whatsoever. So at least the complexities do not involve rain versus snow. This is easily a snow event. It's going to be more than cold enough for that. And this is just the beginning of what is going to be a decently cold stretch of weather through the first half of February. Not just this one day, but even into next week. Looks like the Northwest is going to stay colder than average, which our average is mid to upper 30s for this time of year, but we're expecting 20s and low 30s for the next week and then some. So a slightly colder stretch of weather ahead of us. Like I said, all eyes focused on Tuesday. That's why we have our weather impact alert day here. Lighter snow in the morning hours, heavier snow in the evening, but only for about half of the inland Northwest. If you're in the Palouse, southeastern Washington, or if you're in north central Idaho, you are in line for the most snow overall. From about Spokane and then north and west from here, a lot less snow. So you want to make sure that you're aware of your local forecast as it pertains to your city and the traveling across the region. So we'll give you one final look at the forecast snowfall totals for this event on Tuesday. You see very low over central and northern Washington, but it really starts to pick up as we head into north Idaho and then south from there. 1 to 3 in Coeur d'Alene, 2 to 4 inches for Pullman and Moscow, 2 to 4 as well in Lewiston, and up to 3 to 6 inches of snow in Orofino. I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick. Thank you very much for joining us on this KREM 2 Plus exclusive live stream. You can always get your weather online at krem.com. Make sure to join us live on Up with KREM. Tuesday morning, we'll have the latest on Doppler radar and any updated forecast details right there for you. Again, 5 to 7 on KREM 2 and 7 to 9 on CW22. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow morning.